And that is heightened tensions with North Korea. Japan has confirmed this morning that it has detected radio signals suggesting the Kim Jong-un regime is possibly preparing for another missile test. This comes as Hawaii reinstates a nuclear warning alert to prepare for any potential attack from the Hermit Kingdom. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton reportedly blasted President Trump's hardline stance on North Korea during a conference in Beijing. She says, soften up and, quote, avoid personal taunts and bluster. The former Secretary of State claimed both the Trump administration and China have retreated from diplomacy, calling for a return to six-party talks on denuclearization. Joining us right now is Fox News military analyst General Jack Keane. Always good pleasure to see you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be here, Maria.
Let's go through Hillary Clinton's comments here. Your thoughts on her basically saying, soften up and we need to go back to six-party talks.
Well, first of all, a couple of things. It clearly is President Trump, prior to any other president, has achieved something, and that is two approved sanctions, votes in the UN, no vetoes, that are imposing tough economic sanctions on North Korea to a degree, Maria, that no other president has achieved that. So there's something going on here with President Trump that other presidents were not able to achieve, and I believe it's because there's a credible military option on the table. The second thing is, all the so-called soft talk that she's advertising, look what it got us. I mean, it got us North Korea with a nuclear weapon. It got us North Korea now developing intercontinental ballistic missiles. That past policy failed miserably. New president, new policy, who appears possibly making some progress.
Yeah. What should the president be doing at this point if, in fact, Japan is right that they are about to launch another missile?
Talking to President Xi. And listen, remember the envoy from China, after the Far East trip that the president made to China, posited himself in North Korea, and that was a hopeful sign. He's back. I take it if North Korea is going to resume ballistic missile testing, then likely that envoy hasn't succeeded in moving North Korea a step closer to denuclearizing, clearly is what the President Trump and his national security team wants to achieve. So I would assume that he is talking to President Abe, Prime Minister Abe, and he's talking to President Xi quite a bit about what's taking place in North Korea.
I'm sure you're right, especially after this most recent trip, where he seemed very comfortable with those leaders. Let me turn to the threat at home here. ISIS has released a new propaganda image yesterday threatening to attack New York City on Christmas. The disturbing picture shows Santa Claus with a box of dynamite looking over Times Square. Meanwhile, al-Qaeda is calling on militants to target the U.S. rail system, saying it's, quote, among America's easiest targets. The TSA sent out a nationwide security notice to law enforcement in response to that threat. Your thoughts on what we're faced with right now?
Yeah, well, ISIS obviously is not destroyed. We took their territory away that they were controlling in Syria and in Iraq. But it's still a dangerous organization, as these messages would suggest. There's also similar messages in macabre portrayal of ISIS dominating the Vatican, London, and also Paris with some gruesome photos. So what they are able to achieve, Maria, is they still have a virtual caliphate out there where they inspire their followers, sometimes direct them, and sometimes also support them. And this is clearly about sending a message during the holidays to these major capitals that are clearly opposing ISIS in its growth and development. And also, the rail development situation, and that being a threat, was actually posited by al-Qaeda and suggesting how to do it, to derail U.S. rail system. The most likely place and the most traveled place is clearly along the East Coast corridor. But the transit authorities are on top of this thing. The cities along those routes are on top of this thing. So I think we're going to have the kind of vigilance that it deserves.
So you think that the U.S. is prepared for something? Should ISIS try to attack? Should al-Qaeda try to attack?
Well, we're as prepared as we possibly can be. The best against that certainly is good intelligence, and we can pick something up. We've made a couple of arrests in the last few years with people who wanted to do something to our rail systems. There's been obviously success in Brussels and in London and Spain against rail systems because they're all so vulnerable, as we know. There's thousands and thousands of miles of lines and thousands of stations as well where anybody can get onto it.
Yeah. Let me turn to the search for the missing Argentine submarine, General. The U.S. rescue module arrived to the area where the sub vanished 12 days ago. 44 crew members on board. The Navy has since confirmed that there was an explosion in the area at the time of its disappearance. This is likely a recovery mission at this point. What's your take on this? Well,
I agree with that conclusion, as sad as that is. Given the fact there was an explosion in the vicinity of where the submarine was, they probably did perish as a result of it. And this submarine, and I'm delighted they're there because the families deserve us to see if we can recover their loved ones and also try to find out exactly what took place here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, it goes back to a mystery of what happened. Do you think we've got our arms around this? And, I mean, in terms of what happened?
No, I don't think we know, and it'll take a detailed investigation to do it. But, you know, given the danger that submarines present, obviously submerged for long periods of time underneath the water, ours are nuclear submarines, they can go on for months. I mean, it's extraordinary that the safety record that they have. It is really quite remarkable.
Then there's Russia, the latest provocation from Russia. Officials say that a Russian fighter jet buzzed a Navy reconnaissance plane on Saturday while conducting a routine patrol over the Black Sea. So the Russian jet reportedly crossed in front of the Navy plane with its afterburners on, causing, quote, violent turbulence. How should the U.S. be responding to this?
Just keep driving on. I mean, Russia, here we go again. They did this earlier in the month. Dealing with the USS warship Ronald Reagan, sending some bombers close to it. They do this to intimidate and harass. They want the headline. They want the fact that the world recognizes it. It helps them with their own population because they're telling the Russian people that the United States is really the strategic enemy in the world, and they need to be contained, and they're demonstrating that containment by this intimidation. It also helps them with their allies in the region and those countries that they're clearly trying to intimidate and terrorize. Those are largely in Eastern Europe. Yes, so that's what this is about. We just keep going about our business is what we should be doing.
All right, and we'll be watching that. General, good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
Yeah, good talking to you, Maria.
As always, General Jack Keane.